me for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the podcast. It is our favorite day of the week. Yes, weeks and days still matter, even though we've been stuck in quarantine. I've been looking for the silver lining in this the entire time. The entire time I've been saying to myself, Zimmel, find something that you can take as a positive out of this entire situation. And I think I found it. There's a handful of positives. One, I get to record more podcasts for you guys. Two, I get to spend more time catching up with friends that I may not have spoken to in a while. Three, and this is the biggest one, for the special day today, Film Friday, I get to watch more movies. I get to go in deep for a lot of these movies, and I get to see some of the newer releases, some of the newer movies that I may not have gotten a chance to see in theaters. So the movie we're talking about today is Onward, the Pixar movie that I was enthralled with from the first trailer. I was like, I'm in. I am 100% in on this. First, I have to tell you, we have 20 through 1 on the best players of the 2000s list. That podcast is now up. You're going to want to check that out. Also, we did this on Wednesday night, put it out on Thursday. For you guys, the coronavirus has become very serious. The death toll is really racking up at this point. So we talked to Alexander Haynes, again, talking to us about what we can expect going forward and kind of digesting the news and telling us what we need to know going forward with this virus. So Alexander Haynes, of course, always brings the heat, really cuts through the BS for you guys and gets to the meat and potatoes and really tells you what you need to know. So that podcast is out as well. All right, let's talk about this incredible movie. So, as always, we go off of Rotten Tomato. What did the Rotten Tomato critics think of this movie? Well, the audience score is 95. That is the highest rated movie that we have done on this podcast. I don't know a movie that has had a higher rating. Also, just to be completely fair, verified ratings, there's 8,000 reviews already for this movie. The tomato meter, what the critics say, is 87% fresh. Again, very good. Another really high rating when we talk about the movies that we've done. It's pretty impressive. Not a whole lot of movies get that high of ratings, especially the ones that we talk about on this podcast. All right, so the movie info that you need to know. It's set in suburban fantasy world. The Disney Pixar Onward introduces two teenage elf brothers who embark on an extraordinary quest to discover if they have a little magic left out there. All right. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of the plot. If you have not seen this movie yet, I will give you my rating at the end of it, but I encourage you to watch the movie before you listen to the podcast. As always, there's going to be some spoilers, so if you're into that, stick around. Let's get into it. All right, so synopsis of this plot. We open the movie up with it being fantasy world. There's elves, and there's trolls, and there's dragons, and there's fairies, and there's wizards, and we slowly but surely see, well, life is difficult. You got dragons who are blowing things up, you got unicorns who are flying around majestically, and you see that, okay, as time is going on, that these elves, these trolls, these everyday people are figuring out how to make light or make things easier on themselves. So of course you see the first thing is the guy discovers electricity, how to power, how to create a fire without having to use magic. It's just electricity, boom, you have a spark, you're good to go. And then as time progresses, slowly but surely, magic and the entirety of this whole civilization that's based on magic and based on fantasy really phases out. You turn into a suburban area where there's Ian and Barley Lightfoot and their mom, who is all getting ready for the school day. Ian is, I want to say, about 18. His mom, Laura, is a single mother after their father passes away. That is the big plot device of this movie, is that Ian and Barley are trying to bring their father back after Ian is gifted on his 18th birthday a magic wand, or a stick, a staff, because it turns out that their dad was a wizard. And already in the trailers, if you haven't seen the trailers for it, it's this mix of like, okay, it's current everyday life with this like fantasy, and we've seen movies like this in the past. We saw movies where they tried to take fantasy tales and bring them into current day. I think that there was a Wizard of Oz remix with James Franco that had like some of that type of stuff where it was like, oh, the Wizard of Oz. Oz is going back and his first time he's there and all this type of stuff. And I really wasn't that into it. They had like that Cinderella movie that it was Cinderella goes through a subway gutter and boom, she's back in fantasy world, goes to the subway or goes through the manhole and boom, she's in New York City. I didn't really buy into that either. I didn't like any of those. But the thing is that Pixar doesn't miss. Pixar is the only movie studio that I can think of currently that never misses. They are batting 1,000 right now for putting out just hit after hit after hit. So all of these reasons, I was already in on this movie before I even sat down to watch it, that it was going to take a lot for me to be turned off by this movie. Then you also talk about the incredible cast, the incredible voice cast, I should say. You already have Tom Holland coming off Spider-Man. You got Chris Pratt coming off of Guardians of the Galaxy. So they're now in the Disney, family, right? Like they're going to always be the talent that Disney goes to or turns to when they're making these type of movies, which I love. I love it when a movie studio says, hey, here's our 7 or 8 cast list that every time we make a movie, we're going to go and get these type of guys. I love that. And then you got Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who we talked about Downhill. That was a Disney film, I want to say. So she's now kind of done multiple Disney movies. It's interesting. I wish that we had a list of all the actors and actresses in the last 20 years who have done multiple Disney movies, Disney-produced movies. Because I think that now every Hollywood actor has done a Disney movie. But I'd be interested to see who has done the most Disney-produced movies. All right, so the plot thickens. Ian now has the staff. Barley is now... He already was kind of a weird kid. He graduates a little bit earlier than Ian. He's, I think, a year or two older than he is. And he is a Dungeons & Dragons nerd. Okay, he's a big, Barley guy. Looks like he's corn-fed. But the problem is that he is into this D&D game. But the game is based on reality, right? So it'd be almost like if you had a historical reenactment playing a game like that. But it's like there's historical facts in it. You're still playing as characters. So he's got this cards, he's got the game, he's got the dice, and they say, all right, well, we got to go get this gem to bring back our dad. Because the gem that they had, it was like Dragonstone gem, I want to say. The gem that they had blows up as they're trying to bring their dad back. So they only get to the bottom half of their dad. So it's like feet to waist that they bring back. And of course, now they have to go get another gem so that they have to go on this long quest. And it's beautifully done. It is a movie that I think that it's difficult, right? Like, it's difficult for Pixar to pick these type of movies because all of their movies have an underlying message. Okay, like Inside Out has the message of how teenagers or tweens, how their brains kind of work, and how you, even in your saddest moments, when everything's shaken up, when your snow globe of life is really shaken, how do you cope with that? How do you come back from that? How do you continue to push forward? And it's these incredible messages, these incredible stories, wrapped in great animation, wrapped in great storytelling, wrapped in great characters, wrapped in great actors. But at the bottom line, at the core of it, there's a really good story. And in this story, it is the bond that brothers share, the bond that families share when a loved one is gone. And I think that this movie is perfectly made for the time that we have. Not only with the coronavirus going on, but I'm think about in the last decade. I know for my generation at least, for the people that I know, and a little bit younger, we not only have had this opioid epidemic, who has taken loved ones, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, moms, dads, who we lose, and you're left with, this hole in your life. And for Ian and Barley, both of very young when they lose their dad, that's a hole that is always there. We see Ian early in the movie wearing his dad's sweatshirt, and how he was saying that this is like his favorite possession, or this is one of the last possessions that they have of their dad, and how Barley has 4 memories of their dad because he was so young when he passed on. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching this movie, think about the kids who are watching this movie, not the 22-year-olds watching it in house arrest, but think about the kids who are seeing this movie, if not on DirecTV, if not on Disney Plus, seeing it in a movie theater, however is seeing this movie. I'm thinking about the kids that are in the 10 to 7 to 5 age range who are watching this movie for the first time and getting this really good story, and how Ian and Barley not only have to come to grips with losing their dad, not only come to grips with like the potential of talking to him one more time, because if you talk to anybody who loses a parent, who loses a loved one, they would do anything to get one more chance to talk to that person. And that's what this gem, this Dragonstone gem is going to do, is that they're going to get to be with their dad for as long as, it's like 24 hours, I want to say. But the problem is that they set off half his body. And that's when the time starts. It's not that, when he's completely here, the time starts. It's that now we only have a certain amount of time to get this gem to have him fully built together for the certain amount of time. Okay? And that's another plot device, and it pushes him forward. And of course you have Ian and Barley. Barley, of course, kind of a knucklehead, kind of a guy who, if you're a little brother, you're thinking, oh, my loser big brother who's stuck playing games all day, doesn't really take anything seriously, kind of a screw up. Ian Barley, not very popular in school, looks like a shy kid, doesn't really talk to a lot of people, doesn't have a ton of friends, as shown early in the movie. And Barley has been talked about in this movie early on as a guy who's not scared of anything, who doesn't have any social anxiety, doesn't worry about having anybody laugh at him or having any problems. Early in the movie, he is a guy who ties himself to this historical fountain to protect it, because he thinks that the current society is tearing away too much of, the past, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was really funny. But as the story continues, you see Ian look at Barley a different way. You see the little brother come to grips with, okay, I lost my dad at a young age, but I had my big brother the entire time with me too. And it's a beautifully told story. And I can't stress that enough. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to see it. If you've seen it, I know that you're in your car, at your house, listening to this podcast, agreeing with me. Because I don't, we talked about the audience rating. I don't think anybody looked at this movie and didn't like it. It's a shame that coronavirus, I think, is going to take a ton of money away from the box office. I'm hoping that this is one of those Disney movies that if kids don't see it in theaters, that they're going to find again on Disney Plus, that they're going to find again on another streaming site maybe, and hopefully it goes to TV, maybe it gets on cable, gets on one of those Disney channels, and people can watch it again, because I really did enjoy it. All right, let's talk about winners and losers. There are no losers in this movie, okay? Everybody comes out on top. Like in most Disney movies, I think the last movie that we've done, or the last movie I can think of, a Pixar Disney movie that had a loser, I think maybe Woody in Toy Story 4 was kind of a loser, which is hard to say. Maybe Buzz in Toy Story 4 didn't get a ton of screen time. But Pixar movies very rarely have a loser that you can point to and be like, oh, yeah, that guy struggled. No, this guy didn't have a good time. Maybe we didn't like that. Okay, but in this movie, there's only winners, because everybody hits it out of the park. Tom Holland as Ian Lightfoot. I could barely think of Spider-Man. I was really worried when Tom Holland was going to be this character. I was thinking to myself, well, am I going to be thinking, oh, that's Tom Holland the entire time? And I didn't think about it once. And that just goes to show not only that he's an incredible actor, but he's a very good voice actor. we've seen him do a couple of voice acting roles so far. I think that works really good for him with the schedule that he's on as they continue to churn out Marvel movies. I think a lot of these Marvel actors are going to do more voiceover work because you go into a studio and boom, you can knock out a script. I think that works really well for Holland. I think it works really well in this movie that he was able to play Ian Lightfoot. Another winner, Chris Pratt. Again, I thought that, I'm going to be thinking, this is Quill the entire time. It didn't cross my mind once. The entire time, I was just so enthralled by what they were doing. Really liked Colt Bronco, who was voiced by Mel Rodriguez. Colt Bronco is the stepdad or like the love interest of their mom. I thought that character, he's a centaur, so he's half man, half horse, and I thought that was a really funny character because they not only do they make fun of him early in the movie about how he's driving in a police car, and he's a centaur, he's a horse, and I think Barley even mentions, back in the day, centaurs could run 70 miles per hour. You don't need a car. And his dad was like, or the stepdad was like, well, I have a car, so it's not that big of a deal. I have a car, I'm going to use it. So, really like that character. Colt Bronco is really funny. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, incredible actress. Thought that character of the mom was really funny. As she's getting these phone calls, as the story continues, as Ian and Barley are going on their quest, she's getting phone calls of, well, we saw them here, we saw them there, and everybody's always saying, yeah, Ian is kicking it out of the park, hitting it out of the park right now. Very confrontational, very full of drive, and that's not something that she had seen out of her son. Which just goes to show parents that when their kid has something that they really love, either a hobby or in this case trying to bring their dad back, which again, it's kind of a big deal. They show passion that you might not have seen before. They show that a fire that you might not have seen before. So Apex was the best scene in this movie. The most rewatchable scene is going to be, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it yet, most rewatchable scene is the scene where they are doing the invisible bridge across to lower the drawbridge. I loved that scene. I'm going to tell you why. So, goes into a couple parts. Part one is just the concept of need to make a trust bridge. I thought that was just, I thought it was corny at first, but then I was like, oh, okay, it's a kid's movie, I guess we'll let it slide. But the idea that, okay, you need to fully trust that you can walk across, that if you don't think that the spell is working, well, the spell's not working. But if you can put your foot down, one foot in front of the other, then it is it's there. And then, of course, the rope isn't there the entire time, and Ian walks across the bridge halfway through the bridge without a rope on, just to show that like how much he trusts himself. That's something new we hadn't seen from the character. And then, of course, the brother being like, yeah, no, I believed in you the entire time, which is something that I don't think that Ian got a lot, and I think that was a really big deal for Ian and the progression of the character moving forward. The other most rewatchable scene, of course, is going to be the scene at the end with the curse and the dragon that comes to life, and that Ian has to fight the dragon along with his mom and along with the barkeep. And the sacrifice of letting Barley have that last moments with their dad and him not even getting to see him. Like you can see him through a hole that Barley and the dad are like conversating, but he never gets to talk to his dad. An incredible sacrifice. So that also was a big win for me. Was that those two scenes incredible? I was very moved by both of those. That's going to do it for the podcast. No losers, all winners. Very good Film Friday. Very excited to put this one out for you guys. We have nothing coming this week, nothing coming next week because we're all in quarantine. But Alexander is going to continue to come on the podcast, and we're going to continue to put content out for you guys. So stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. Buckle up. We're going to continue to put great content out for you. Stay safe. Wash your hands. And I will talk to you guys next week.